a very talented author today. And usually it's a very easy thing to give an introduction about an author, but reluctantly I had to follow a bio, like a written bio, because there's too many roles she plays, and I'm going to read it from a book itself. Passionate about children's literature, for her stories hold a magic that is mesmerizing, which she wishes to share with others. So far, she has played different roles as a head of department, ATI Candy, lecturer in English, teacher, professional and sworn translator, co-author, apart from the roles of her sister, spouse, and mom. And now I'm sure you would agree that it was such a difficult thing to gather information about her. Graduating from the University of California, she also holds a Master of Arts degree in linguistics from the same university, together with a diploma in counseling from the Institute of Psychological Studies in Sri Lanka. So it's my pleasure to introduce Thamarasi Mahawattage, who is the author of an award-winning book, Rickety Rocks. Welcome, Thamarasi.
Yeah, thank you, Danica. Thank you very much.
So I'm just wondering now, would you like to add anything other than the details that I already mentioned to your readers? I'm sure they would love to know who you really are, some personal details if you wish to share.
Yeah, so if I were to introduce myself in a couple of words, I'd say I'm an introvert, a bit of an overthinker, and I tend to analyze a bit too much. Also, sort of a perfectionist. So not the ideal combination, not the easiest combinations to live with, as my immediate family members would know, and especially my husband would admit to it. But in his case, that's what he signed in for, right? So yeah, apart from that, of course, I've always liked books. My childhood was surrounded with books. That kind of gave me the impetus to write later on.
So you heard it. It's not an easy thing to live with a perfectionist, as she says it. I'm sure in a literature, we'll be able to see some of these influences. So next question is about Rickety Rocks. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you won an award for this. So can you give a brief of what Rickety Rocks is about? Kind of a synopsis brief of what your book is about for your reader.
Yeah, so what's interesting about Rickety Rocks is the characters that are there. If you see, till you see the book, you wouldn't guess who the characters are. But when you see the book cover, you get to know the characters. My story evolves around a bunch of chairs who come to life. So they can speak, act, play, and engage in all sorts of activities. So then if you come to the protagonist, the main character of the story is Rickety. Now, what's interesting about Rickety is that he has a weakness. He has one weakness, which turns out to be a big problem for him, a huge challenge for him, because of the people around him, especially the friends, tend to treat him differently, tend to view him differently because of his difference, because of his weakness. So my story unfolds Rickety's story and tells us how Rickety feels about being treated differently. How he tries to navigate those challenges, how he tries to respond to them, and the emotional trauma and the emotional issues he faces, and his attempt to fit in when others label him as a misfit. So you've got to go through the book to see how it unfolds. You would notice that for Rickety, life is not easy. It seems to be getting harder, getting worse from bad. When you come to the end of it, you actually discover whether Rickety becomes a victim or victorious because of the challenges he has in life. In shorter form, whether he ends up a winner or a loser. So that's the synopsis that I would like to share, not the whole story.
I think that's fair enough. Next question is, why did you select children's genre? I mean, you are a talented lead genius in many ways, and you have a lot of life experience. I'm sure you could have done a adult fiction, but what was your reason to do a children's book?
Yeah, in trying to answer that question, I'll again track back to my childhood. I told you I was always in love with books. I was surrounded with books, thanks to probably my parents who put up a mini library at home in the form of a full-length wall cupboard full of books, and also the hand-me-downs of my brother's books. So reading those books had always given me a love for stories and an awe for the authors who write them. So in the back of my mind, I think I always wanted to write something on my own. However, for some reason, it didn't manifest for years. I think I couldn't probably figure out who my audience would be and what my message to them should be. I wasn't clear of that. So my inspiration to finally write Rickety Rocks came about because of one special, very special person in my life, right? My daughter. So when I was expecting her as a first-time mom, you know, as first-time moms usually do, you think ahead of yourself, you plan. And I was planning a birthday gift for her to be given for her first-year completion birthday, even before she had been born, right? So that's how crazy it was. So I thought, being a book lover, what better gift would be than a book? Not just any book, but a book written specially for her, a book that is dedicated to her, and perhaps a book that carries my message to her. So my daughter was the inspiration that I really needed to finally push through and start writing. And when I got that thought, of course, I didn't have to think. I knew my audience, I knew my message. It was just a matter of, you know, days I started writing, and I enjoyed writing it. So that's how I chose children's literature, because it was to be a gift to a child.
Well, I mean, that's a very personal reason, and I think it's a good enough reason to do a book. And I think your daughter is very lucky to have a mother who is also an author and who thinks way ahead of time to plan a book for her. Can you just give us an idea of how your writing experience was? Because I presume that each writer has their own habits. You know, some wake up very early at a peaceful time, but you had a very challenging life because you were a working mom, and you had so many other things to look after. So how did you write the book? What was your experience like, the little journey from the first letter until you finish it?
Yeah, so as I told you earlier, my inspiration was there. So actually, it wasn't challenging for me to write at that beginning stage, because I was so excited about giving a gift and spreading some love and including some messages that I wanted the reader to find through the book. it just, you know, it's like just magic. It was like happening involuntarily. The ideas are coming, I'm writing, but then I'm editing again, I'm rereading, editing. So being a working mom, I don't know how I did it, but somehow or other I've done it. Yeah, because when you really like what you're doing, you don't mind the time, the effort, the sweat you put to something. It's when you don't like your job that you hate doing it. So writing this book was a magical experience for me, a very loving experience for me, that it wasn't challenging in that sense. But the challenges were there in getting it out into the printing world, I would say, because after writing it, this is kind of funny. After writing it, I told you I finished writing it even before my baby was born. So when I got her, I realized, oh my goodness, this book is so over the top of a 1-year-old. Like, she's never gonna be able to get this when she's 1 year old. So, and also when you have a little baby with you, when you're responsible for the survival of the baby, you know, books and publishing, all those things goes out of the window, right? So the book was kept aside and I started taking care of her. So then life has this funny way of unfolding around you. You go on doing the mundane stuff, you cook, you eat, go to work, you take care of your children, you try to find them schools, you try to build houses, and all those dreams, they kind of vanish into the background. That happens in life, right? And, you know, every few years, I would suddenly remember, oh my goodness, there's that book that I had written. I want to publish it. And I would tell my husband, we've got to do something about it. But then again, the other ordinary matters come into play. So I think the real challenge came in the form of those things, not being able to give a lot of priority to that dream, that lofty dream. And also, maybe because it's my first book, maybe because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, I wanted to do a very good job at it. So trying to find the best illustrations, trying to get the exact word in place, all those things took time. Those things were challenging with my work life, you know, trying to balance it all. Yeah.
The next question is about the illustrations. There are two questions. First of all, I would like to know the role played by Shenali D. Silva and how important illustrations are in a children's book.
Yeah, so especially in case of Rickety Rocks, because it's an original story where chairs come to life. There's very hardly there's a place for you to find inspiration, because not many illustrations are there with chairs that are alive. So we were facing a challenge in terms of finding an illustrator. We had to search and then try out and then see whether that would suit our book, because the illustrations themselves also tell a story parallel to the written word. So yeah, it was wonderful that we met Shenali, because her style really matched with my text. And then we had the discussions that went into forming the illustrations, because it was challenging for her as well to think of how to portray chairs and to make them come alive. And also even the cover page, not to give away the story from the cover page, but to make it still interesting enough and vibrant and colorful enough. So it was a mutual discussion that went on. to bring these illustrations out, and Shanali did a wonderful job. So I would say perhaps here in our country, not a lot of attention is paid to illustrations, which is a pity because children are basically attracted to the illustrations, and illustrations help you pave a smooth path for the story to flow on. So yeah, illustrations was a challenging task, but I think you can see from the book that we've nailed it as well. So thank you, Shanali.
So big thanks goes to Shanali, I suppose. So my next question is like your selection of the narration. Now you're bringing this story to life with nursery chairs, not with rabbits or birds or fish that are very familiar to children. So why chairs?
There are two ways in which I can answer that question. One is obviously, I told you when I was writing it, I was writing it for a very personal reason. And at that stage, you are really emotional and sensitive to all sorts of things, you know, when you're expecting a child. So although I wanted to write an endearing story that could carry my message, I did not want to subject a live character, let's say a boy or a girl or a living thing, through the hardships that Crickety is going to go through. I don't know whether you can gather it, but I felt it would be cruel. It would be kind of, I couldn't bear it at that stage. So that's one reason. Chairs, of course, okay, like they would be able to take it, right? And the other reason is, again, something that goes way back to my childhood. I told you I was a book lover. There was also this special chair at our place, a very elegant, cozy chair, which I used to perch on and go on reading my storybooks without a care in the world. I'm not gonna specify what type of a chair it was because it would give away the story, but I have fond memories of my time spent in that chair. You know, when you're a child, you're very impressionable, and the feelings, emotions you go through, things you like, things you form a bonding with, those things just carry on in life. So even after becoming an adult, I still remember my little chair and how much fun it was for me. Unfortunately, the chair is no more, but that memory and the almost tangible feeling of comfort I had there, safety, the wonder, it's still with me. So I believe when I was writing this endearing story, my endearing memories of that chair also seeped into it, found a way to seep into it. So it does two things. It keeps my memory of my favorite chair intact, and also it doesn't hurt any live thing, live being through the story. So that's why chairs. When I was writing it, I didn't really think of it as a big deal. But now, with my readers and fans, I understand that they find it quite interesting. They're saying that they have never seen where there's a story about chairs coming to life. So they've never seen. So different people come to me at different stages and say, that's very original, that's very creative. I've never seen, I can never remember a chair being portrayed like that. So those were the reasons for my my personification, of chairs. So it worked out really well.
The book is full of rhyming words and a well-balancing language. So I believe that vocabulary is a very, very sensitive subject in a children's book. So you have to be careful. At the same time, you can't lose your creativity. So how do you strike the balance between being careful at the same time giving the best of your creativity?
Yeah. Again, reading and having your vocabulary in a kind of an expanse, brushed up level helps this endeavor. When you have a good vocabulary yourself, you know, that's something that you achieve by reading. It naturally flows into your writing, I believe. And yeah, so when you're writing a children's book, I think you have a very special responsibility. You're catering to an audience that is at a very tender age. They are very impressionable in their younger years. So you have to be careful of not only of the message, but of the words that you choose to convey your message. Yeah, so that's it. Words matter.
Now, you won an award for the right reason, but what was it? And can you tell us about the award?
Yeah, so I'm happy to say that I won the 2023 State Literary Award for the best literature, best children's literature in English, published in 2022.
So congratulations, being a debut and winning an award is not something that you hear every day. I think it has been justified by the magnificent work here. So how important it is an award for a writer in his writing, in somebody's writing life?
Yeah, so that's interesting again. Now, when you're a first-time writer, not everybody believes in you. You find it difficult to find listeners. You find it difficult to find room for you in the media, newspapers, etc. So when you win an award, tables turn. You get room, you get invitations, and people are willing to take you seriously. So I think that's a great thing that can happen with award presentation. You know, when I first wrote it, and when I invited people for the launch, they would go, oh, are you a writer? Have you done this before? Right? I said, no, this is my first one. They said, okay. And then recently when I won the award, and when they see it on the Facebook or the newspapers, then they again come back and ask, oh, you won an award, I heard. So is this the first award? So like, is it the first book? Is it the first award? The geography around it changes. They always want to know whether it's the first. But what I'm also trying to say is you've got to give some credit and have faith in first time doers of a thing as well, because there's always a first time for everyone, right? So for any first time writers, believe in yourself, even if the others don't.
So I have two more questions for you. One regarding your future projects. That you already have a readership, and every day there's someone new adding, and word of mouth is spreading. So what do you have to present them?
Yeah. So something that I feel that personally what I believe in is inspiring readers or inspiring others in some way or the other. if you take the local context, there are a lot of there's a lot of hopelessness hanging around. So I would like to address that aspect in the sense I will reframe it this way. In the media or when you talk to others, you see so much negativity. You see people putting down each other so much. A lot of negative news gets hyped. But is it only negativity that we have? No, there's so much positivity also, but it's not in the surface. I would like to kind of read something from my book. It says, many among us believe what's said in the loudest voice. So the loudest voice is reserved for the negative stuff. So what about all the positive aspects that we have, right? So I would like to take a stand for that and bring out the positive aspects in people's lives, because there are so many unsung heroes in our communities that people never hear about. Those are the real people who should get a voice, who should get their picture in the paper, about whom people should talk about. But in reality, on news, on social media, even among chit-chats of friends, we hear about the criminals, the thugs, the drug dealers. I mean, we should change that. We should bring the names of the real unsung heroes to the forefront. And then the other part, hopefully, will go down. Because otherwise, what is the message that we are giving to our children? That our world is all bad, our world is full of negativity. So, so that's something that I have in mind. You hear about these little children achieving great achievements despite all hardships in life. So what if we could shed some light on their real life achievements, right? So those are some projects that that's, you know, over there. So maybe next thing would be in those lines.
So I wish you good luck with that. And I firmly believe that words are more powerful than bullets, as well as words itself can change the world. So the last question for you is in fact for your readers who are the little ones. So what is your message for the little ones that read Rickety Rocks? As well as, would you like to read a page or a favorite quote from this for the little readership?
Yeah, thank you very much, Danuka. Yeah, so a number of themes, a number of little messages young readers will find when they read the book. Some of the messages are, of course, obvious because the characters speak them out or think about them. But some of the messages, little nuggets of wisdom, they are hidden in between the lines. So when you read it and think about it, those things will come to your mind. So if I were to express a few of the messages, let's say, not giving up when things get tough, not giving up, believing in yourself, not giving in to peer pressure. Just because a lot of them are saying it, or just because the most popular people are saying it, it might not necessarily be the truth. So peer pressure, be careful of it, be aware of it. And also friends, you know, we all have friends, so many friends, but are all friends true friends? Are all friends real friends to us? So even at a young age, I think it's okay to have a idea as to how to select whose company is good for you, whose friendship is gonna be beneficial for you. Because for the fear of losing a friend, if you try to hang on to someone, it might not end up in a nice way for you. I'm talking about it in terms of children, right? So how to find who your true friends are, not giving up, trying hard even when you're losing. Because, you know, losing is as much as winning a part of life. So now quite recently we heard about certain children taking drastic measures when they, you know, when they can't cope with their marks, right? So I think it's such a heartbreaking scenario to think that you are not good enough just because your marks are down, and in a very competitive setting. It's insane. So we have to change that mentality. We have to tell them that you are good enough. You are enough, right? So that's a message that I would like the readers to come and get it from the book. And yeah, also appearance versus reality, themes that they will come across in life. Maybe it's a good idea to expose them to that at a young age. Yeah. So I would like to quote one of the stanzas that are here. Do not fear to fail, for it's but a chance to learn. If you want to win, be ready to take another turn. And just because you had a bad fall doesn't mean you're not good at all. Mistakes can be painful, I know, but that's how you learn to grow. When you falter, as sometimes you will, just brush it off and go until you rise and shine and smile again and dream the dream you want to dream. That's my favorite part.
Thank you, Thamarasi. It was such a pleasure having you today. And I would like to remind our organizers, Neptune Goodreads, as well as Meta Raids, as well as Simon and Schuster. And we had a talented author with a debut book winning an award, Rickety Rocks. And I will finish, I'll wind up with a quote from her on book. And dream the dream you want to dream. Good luck, Thamarasi.